Chapter 1. The God You Never Learned in Temple. Finding the Divine in a Falling Leaf. Close your eyes now, and let me ask you a question that might feel, at first, like a secret you weren't meant to hear. What if everything you've ever been told about God is wrong? Not wrong in a blasphemous way, not in a way that seeks to tear anything down, but wrong in the way a child's drawing of the sun is wrong. It captures the spirit, the yellow joy of it, but it misses the colossal nuclear furnace, the immense gravitational pull, the life-giving light that travels 93 million miles just to warm your face on a Tuesday afternoon. What if God is not a watchmaker in the sky, winding up the universe and stepping back to see if it ticks? What if God is not a judge, keeping a ledger of your sins and virtues, pleased by one prayer and disappointed by another thought? What if that idea, that ancient, towering figure, is the child's drawing? And what if the truth is far more immense, more intimate, and more terrifyingly beautiful than we ever dared imagine? What happens to a soul that never learns this? It might spend a lifetime feeling alone in a crowded universe, praying to a silence. It mistakes for absence, never realizing the answer was in the rain on the windowpane all along. Tonight, let us gently peel away the drawing and look for a moment at the furnace. Let us meet the God of Baruch Spinoza. Imagine him, a young man, not much older than you were, when you first felt the world was not what it seemed. He walks the damp, cobbled streets of Amsterdam, but his mind is not on the commerce, the smell of herring and spice, the sound of a dozen languages haggling in the canals. His mind is elsewhere. It is tracing the geometry of a spider's web, glistening with morning dew in a corner. It is feeling the inevitability of a falling apple, not as an event, but as a necessary note in a silent, endless song. He is looking for God, but he is not looking up. He is looking out. He is looking in. His community, the one that gave him identity, structure, belonging, will soon cast him out for this. They will call him a heretic. They will scream and curse his name, and he will be utterly, completely alone. They did this not because he was evil, but because what he saw was too vast, too different, too quiet for their world to hold. He was offering them an ocean, and they were holding on to their little wooden cup. They feared losing the God in the cup, and never realized he was giving them the God of the sea. So let us, you and I, step into that silence with him. Let us leave the shouting behind. Feel the quiet of this space. It's just the low hum of the world outside, the rhythm of your own breath. That breath, in and out, is our first clue. It is not something you do, not really. It is something that happens through you. The air pressure changes, your diaphragm responds, your cells hunger for oxygen and release their waste. It is a process, a magnificent, intricate, automatic process. Now feel your heartbeat, that steady, quiet drum in the dark of your chest. You are not willing it to beat. It is beating you. It is the rhythm of you. This body of yours, with its aches and its comforts, its tiredness tonight, is not a machine you pilot. It is a happening. A slow, beautiful, cellular conversation with everything around it. You are a process, not a thing. You are a verb, temporarily pretending to be a noun. And this is the doorway. Spinoza's God is not a noun, not a thing, not a being. Spinoza's God is a verb, the verb of all verbs, Deus sive natura, God, or nature, not God and nature as two separate things. God is nature, the single, eternal, infinite substance of which everything is made. Everything. The keyboard these words are typed on, the screen you read them from, the neurons firing in your brain as you understand them, the tiredness weighing down your eyelids, the vast dark silence between the stars. It is all God. There is nothing that is not. This is not pantheism, the idea that God is in everything. This is more radical. It is the idea that everything is God. The thinking, the extension, the mental and the physical. They are two attributes of the same infinite substance, expressing itself in an infinite number of ways. The falling leaf is God, expressing itself as leafness, as fallingness, as autumnness. Your thought about the leaf is God, expressing itself as thoughtness, as wonder, as memory. The law of gravity that guides the leaf's descent is God. The feeling of melancholy its fall evokes in you is God. It is all one, a single, breathtaking, interconnected, and necessary whole. There is no room for miracles here, not because Spinoza wanted to take away the magic, but because he saw a deeper, more profound magic. A miracle is a break in the rules. It is a contradiction. But for Spinoza, God does not break his own rules, because God is the rules. The divine substance operates with a perfect, logical, geometric necessity. It could not be otherwise. The leaf could not decide not to fall. Your heart cannot decide, on a whim, to beat in a samba rhythm. It all follows from the nature of God, just as the angles of a triangle follow from the nature of Euclidean geometry. This is not a cold, mechanical universe. It is a universe of perfect, elegant, and profound logic. The awe is not in the breaking of the rules, but in the sublime, unbreakable perfection of them. The real miracle is that anything exists at all, and the fact that it does, and that we are here as a part of it to witness it, is the only miracle we will ever need. So what does this mean for you, here, now, in the dark? It means you are never, ever alone. Your prayers were never sent to a distant throne. They were breathed into the very fabric of yourself, which is the fabric of everything. That feeling of connection you get when you look at the ocean, or stand in an old forest, or hold the hand of someone you love, that is not a metaphor. That is the most real thing in the world. It is you, recognizing yourself in another form of God. You are a temporary pattern, a unique and beautiful configuration of the divine substance. A wave on the ocean. You will rise, you will crest, you will foam and sparkle with a unique light, and you will subside back into the ocean. The wave was never not the ocean. It was just the ocean, waving. And so it is with you. You are the universe, expressing itself as a human being for a little while. Your joys are its joys. Your sorrows are its sorrows. Your quiet breath tonight is its breath. There is no judgment here, only a vast, eternal, and loving acceptance. For how can God reject itself? You are already home. You have always been home. You just forgot the address. So sleep now with this knowledge. You are not a stranger in a strange land. You are the land, dreaming it has a stranger. And in the morning, when you see a leaf fall or feel the rain, you might just feel a whisper of recognition, a quiet hello from everything to one of its own. And from that feeling of being utterly, inescapably part of everything, a new question begins to form in the quiet of your mind. If I am not a separate pilot in this machine of a universe, but rather an expression of the universe itself, then who is in control? What are these storms of emotion that sometimes overtake me? This sadness that feels like a weight, this anger that flashes like lightning? If I am God, why do I ever feel like a prisoner? The answer lies not in fighting the storm, but in understanding the wind itself. It lies in the quietest rebellion, Chapter 2. The Quietest Rebellion. How to be truly free in a world of passion. There is a silence that exists not in the absence of noise, but in the space between thoughts. It is in that space that a profound kind of freedom is born. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from being done unto by your own wants. Have you ever felt it? That moment, perhaps just after a tear has fallen, or just before a sharp word is spoken, where there is a tiny, silent gap, a crack in the momentum of feeling, and in that crack, a choice appears. Most of the time, we miss it. The wave of emotion carries us away, and we are tumbled in its force, scraping against the ocean floor of our own reactions. We say we lost our temper, as if it were a set of keys we mislaid, when in truth it felt more like a possession. The anger had us, the sadness had us, the fear was piloting the body. And later, in the quiet, we feel a strange exhaustion, a hollow regret. We weren't ourselves, we say. But what if, in those moments, we were more ourselves than ever? What if those passions are not intruders, but ancient powerful currents within the vast ocean of God, and our freedom is not about stopping the current, but learning to read it, to swim with purpose within it? What if the most radical act of rebellion is not to shout, but to understand, to be the calm eye of your own storm? Spinoza, alone in his small room, grinding lenses for a living, was mapping this inner geography. The fine glass dust would have filled the air, catching the light, a universe of tiny motes, each following its necessary path. His mind, precise as the lenses he crafted, was focused on a simple, devastating question. Why are we so often slaves? Not slaves to a king or a master, but slaves to our own minds. His answer was as elegant as a geometric proof. We are passive, he said, when we are the inadequate cause of our own actions, when things happen to us from the outside and we react without full understanding. These reactions, these passions, fear, hatred, envy, even a love that is desperate and clinging, are like scars on the soul. They are impressions left by the world, and we mistake these scars for parts of ourselves. We build our identities around them. I am an angry person, we say, cementing the scar into a statue. But Spinoza would whisper, no, you are a person who has been acted upon by anger. There is a difference, a profound, liberating difference. Imagine you are walking down a path and a sudden rain begins to fall. You are soaked. You are cold. You might curse the sky, hunch your shoulders, and hurry along in a state of misery. The rain has acted upon you. You are passive. It has caused inadequate ideas in you, ideas of discomfort, of misfortune, of a ruined day. Now imagine the same scene, but you understand meteorology. You saw the clouds gathering. You felt the drop in pressure. You even brought an umbrella, but you left it behind, choosing instead to feel the rain on your skin. You understand the rain. You understand it is not a personal attack, but a part of a vast, beautiful system of evaporation and condensation. You understand your body will get wet, and that being wet is temporary, and that a warm drink awaits you at home. The rain is the same, the wetness is the same, but you are no longer passive. You are active because you understand. The emotion, the frustration may arise, but it does not possess you. It becomes a piece of data, a sensation, not a commander. This is Spinoza's freedom. It is not the freedom to stop the rain. It is the freedom to understand it, and in doing so, to change your experience of it entirely. Your power is not in altering the world, but in comprehending your place within its unbreakable chains of cause and effect. Now, bring this in closer. to the middle of the night when an old anxiety visits. It doesn't knock. It lets itself in, sits on the edge of your bed and makes the room feel smaller. Your heart begins to beat a little faster. Your mind starts to race, tracing old grooves of worry. This is a passion. The world, some past event, is acting upon you. You are passive. You are, in that moment, a slave to that anxiety. What would the quiet rebellion look like? It would not be to shout, "Go away." That is just another form of struggle, another wave in the same storm. The rebellion is to turn in the dark and to look at the anxiety, to say, "Ah, it is you again," to understand it. What are you, really? You are a rapid heartbeat. You are a series of thoughts about the future, which is not here. You are a memory of a past that is gone. You are a chemical state in my body. I do not have to hate you. I do not have to fear you. I can simply understand you. I can feel the sheets against my skin, the cool air on my face, the steady truth of this present moment that exists beneath the frantic story you are telling. And in that understanding, that act of seeing the anxiety clearly for what it is, a passing weather pattern in the system of ME, a miraculous thing happens. It loses its power. It might not vanish, but it is no longer the master of the house. It becomes a guest, an unwelcome one perhaps, but a guest who does not control the lights or the thermostat. This is the movement from passivity to activity, from being enslaved by a passion to exercising your natural power of understanding. This is how a stone, understanding the law of gravity, would fall with perfect freedom. It is not fighting its fall. It is being exactly what it is, in accordance with the whole of nature. This is the quietest rebellion. It makes no sound. It requires no banners or shouts. It happens in the deepest interior of a human being. It is the movement from being a prisoner of your emotions to being their curious, compassionate witness. Spinoza called this intellectual love. To love something intellectually is not to feel a warm, fuzzy feeling for it. It is to understand its essence, its place in the grand scheme, and in doing so, to accept it utterly. This is the love we can learn to have even for our sorrows, our fears, our anger, not to enjoy them, but to see them as necessary parts of the whole, as our own personal weather. And in this acceptance, this understanding, we achieve a tranquility that is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of a profound, unshakable clarity. We become, in a sense, a local concentration of the universe itself, awake, aware, and free. So tonight, if a thought arises to trouble you, do not fight it. Do not feed it. Simply see it, name it, understand it as a natural thing. This is your quiet rebellion. This is how you stop being a slave to the storm and start being the sailor who knows the sea. And from this place of serene understanding, a final vista begins to open up. A shift in perspective so vast, it can only be seen from a place of perfect calm. A view not of the storm or the sea, but of the entire planet, turning in the starlight, seen from a place beyond time. A view, as Spinoza would say, under the aspect of eternity. Chapter 3. Under the aspect of eternity, seeing your life as the universe sees it. There is a place the mind can go, a vantage point, where all the clocks stop their ticking, not because time ends, but because you finally see it for what it is. From here, the worries that felt like mountains are revealed as folds in a vast and beautiful landscape. The heartbreaks that seem to define your very existence are seen as necessary threads in a tapestry too large to comprehend. This is not a place of cold detachment. It is a place of the deepest, most profound love imaginable. It is the feeling of the universe loving itself. And tonight, in the vulnerability of this half-dreaming state, we can visit it. We can practice seeing your life, not as you usually see it, a linear path from a blurry past to an anxious future, but as the whole cosmos sees it, all at once, complete, perfect, and utterly necessary. What if you could, for just a moment, lay down the weight of your story and see yourself as a star sees the sky? Not as a lonely point of light, but as the light itself. What peace would settle in your bones if you knew, truly knew, that every step you've ever taken, every joy and every sorrow, was not a mistake, but a note in a symphony that could not have been written any other way? Spinoza called this subspecie eternitatis. Under the aspect of eternity, it is the highest form of knowledge. It is not knowledge about things. It is the intuitive, immediate understanding of things as they truly are, in their essential, eternal relation to God, to nature. To see something under the aspect of eternity is to see it not in its temporary, fleeting form, but in its eternal essence. It is to see the acorn and in the same glance, see the mighty oak, the shade it will provide, the animals that will live in its branches, the soil it will enrich when it falls, and the necessity of its entire life cycle within the ecosystem of the planet. It is to see the acorn not as a thing, but as a necessary event in the expression of nature. Now, turn that gaze inward, on yourself, on this life of yours, with all its twists and turns, its triumphs and its stumbles. We are so conditioned to see it as a narrative, a story of progress or decline, of good luck and bad luck, of things that should or shouldn't have happened. We judge it. We cling to the good chapters and wish we could tear out the bad ones. We live in the desperate hope of a better chapter tomorrow. This is the human agony, the burden of the story. But what if the story is just the surface? What if, beneath the plot, there is a truth that is timeless, whole, and breathtakingly beautiful? Imagine your life not as a line, but as a sculpture. From the linear perspective, you are a chisel, focused only on the next chip, the next blow. This chip was too deep, a mistake. This curve is beautiful, a success. You are lost in the endless, anxious process of carving. But to see your life subspecie eternitatis is to put down the chisel and step back, to see the entire sculpture all at once. From this perspective, there are no mistakes. There is only the finished form. That deep chip you thought was a flaw, it creates a shadow that gives the entire piece its depth and character. That smooth curve you were so proud of, it leads the eye directly to the place where the flaw resides, making it essential. Every single mark, every groove, and every smooth plane is necessary. Without any one of them, the sculpture would not be itself. It would be something else. Your heartbreak, your greatest failure, that moment of shame you've carried for decades. From the eternal perspective, it is not an error. It is a defining contour. It shaped what came after. It deepened your capacity for compassion. It forced a change in direction that led you here, now, to this quiet moment of understanding. It was, in the geometry of your existence, necessary. It could not have been otherwise, given the infinite chain of causes that is the universe expressing itself. This is the ultimate intellectual love. It is to look at your own life, with all its perceived imperfections and pains, and not just forgive it, but to understand it, to see its absolute and utter necessity, to love it as God loves it, completely, unconditionally, because it is a perfect expression of his, her, its own nature. You are that expression. Your life is that expression. This does not lead to passivity. It does not mean you stop trying, stop growing, stop feeling. Quite the opposite. It means you engage with life from a place of profound peace and power. You make choices not from fear about ruining your story, but from a place of joyful participation in the unfolding of the whole. You understand that your choices are also part of the necessary flow. You are the universe choosing itself. When you act from adequate ideas, from understanding, you are actively participating in the divine self-expression. You are aligning your will with the will of the whole. And there is no greater freedom, no greater joy than that alignment. So tonight, as you hover at the edge of sleep, let your mind practice this. Let go of the story. Let the narrative of today, of this week, of your life, soften at the edges and blur. Don't try to read it like a book. Instead, feel it as a shape. A complete, whole, and perfect shape. Your shape. Sense the weight of it in the cosmos. Know that every experience you have ever had is a permanent, necessary part of the eternal substance of reality. You are not a brushstroke that can be erased. You are an eternal part of the painting. The love you have felt is forever. The beauty you have witnessed is forever. The pain you have endured is forever. Not as a wound, but as a facet of the whole. It is all preserved sub specie eternitatis in the mind of God. You are eternal, not because your personal consciousness will never end, but because you have always been and will always be a part of the one eternal thing. You are a wave that has temporarily forgotten it is the ocean, but the ocean has never forgotten you. So sleep now, sleep with the knowledge that you are seen, that you are known, that you are, and always have been, a necessary and beloved part of the eternal whole. Your breathing is the tide of the universe. Your heartbeat is its pulse. And in your dreams tonight, you might just remember what it is to see for a moment, under the aspect of eternity. Chapter 4. The universe has no favorite children. On the silent democracy of existence. Have you ever felt the world play favorites? That for some the sun seems to shine just a little brighter. The path appears just a little smoother, while for others the clouds gather and the road is all stones and thorns. What if I told you that this feeling, this deep-seated suspicion that the cosmos is a biased parent, is perhaps the most fundamental and painful of all human illusions? And what if, in letting it go tonight, you could find a peace so profound, so unshakable, that it feels less like an idea and more like coming home to a truth you always knew, but had simply forgotten? This is not a story of a God who chooses. This is the story of a universe that simply is. Close your eyes with me now and imagine, not a king on a throne issuing decrees, not a judge keeping a ledger of rights and wrongs, but the deepest, stillest forest at night. A place where the rain falls without intention. It falls on the towering oak and on the fragile moss clinging to its roots. It falls on the fox's den and on the open path. The rain does not love the oak more than the moss. It does not punish the path for being exposed. It is simply the nature of rain to fall and the nature of the world to receive it. This impartial, boundless, generative pouring forth, this is closer to the divine substance Spinoza invites us to contemplate. He gave it a name, Deus sive natura, God, or nature. Not a separate creator and his creation, but a single, unified, eternal reality. Everything that is, the thoughts moving through your mind right now, the weight of your body on the bed, the vast swirling galaxies millions of light years away, is a modification of this one substance, a different expression of the same essential, vibrant, and limitless being. Think of the ocean. It is one body of water, yet within it there are waves. Some are towering, powerful, crashing against the shore with tremendous force. Others are mere ripples, gentle and almost invisible. Is the ocean favoring the powerful wave? Is it punishing the small ripple? Of course not. The wave and the ripple are not separate things competing for the ocean's affection. They are the ocean itself, expressing its infinite potential in an infinite number of ways. You are a wave, I am a ripple. The star is a brilliant crest of foam under a cosmic wind. We are not separate from the divine. We are its momentary, beautiful, and utterly necessary expressions. This is the silent democracy of existence. In this view, a so-called miracle, a violation of nature's order, is an absurdity. It would mean God contradicting God's own perfect, necessary nature. The universe is not capricious, it is constant. It operates by a graceful, unbreakable logic. The law of gravity is not a rule God decides to enforce. It is an expression of His eternal essence. The growth of a vine toward the sun is not a request He grants. It is a necessary consequence of the attributes of life and light. There is no pleading with this reality. There is only understanding it, only learning its language. And what does this mean for you, lying here in the dark, with the day's worries slowly dissolving? It means the world is not against you. The universe is not conspiring to trip you up. The job you didn't get, the rain that fell on your day off, the unexpected pain. These are not punishments from a displeased deity. They are simply the interplay of an infinite number of causes and effects, all flowing with a perfect, if to us often incomprehensible, logic. They are the rain falling where it must. When we truly internalize this, a profound shift occurs. We stop taking things personally. We release the exhausting burden of believing we are being singled out for special favor or cruel misfortune. We are all equally subject to the same majestic, impersonal, and beautiful laws. This can feel at first like a cold comfort. We want a father who listens. We want a mother who intervenes. But that desire, Spinoza might say, is born from our own feeling of helplessness, our conatus, our striving to persist. We project our human needs onto the infinite. But what if true comfort is not found in being a favorite child, but in realizing there are no favorites? What if the ultimate peace comes from knowing you are an integral, inseparable part of the whole, not a petitioner at the gates, but a note in the eternal symphony? Not a stranger in a strange land, but the land itself, dreaming it is a person for a little while. Your value is not assigned. Your place is not earned. You are. And in your mere existence, you participate in the divine. The universe pours through you as surely as it pours through the moon outside your window. It has no favorite children, because it sees all of itself in every single one. Rest now with that thought. You are not being judged. You are simply being, and that is more than enough. It is everything. A gentle transition, hanging in the air like a slow-moving cloud. And if the universe shows no favoritism in its grand design, then what of the storms it generates within us? What of the rain that falls not on the path but on the soul? What if the very emotions we try to outrun are not errors to be corrected, but the first crucial language of a deeper understanding, waiting to be heard? Chapter 5. The alchemy of understanding, turning sadness into your map maker. We spend so much of our lives running from the shadows. We treat sadness, anger, envy, these so-called negative passions, like unwelcome guests at the door of our minds. We bar the entrance, we draw the curtains, we pretend we are not home. We see them as a failure of our spirit, a corruption of our true, peaceful selves. But what if we have it all backwards? What if these feelings are not enemies to be defeated, but the most honest, albeit clumsy, messengers we possess? What if sadness is not a hole you fall into, but a map? A deeply personal, intimately detailed cartography of your own soul, showing you where you have been, and more importantly, where you need to go. Baruch Spinoza, that quiet revolutionary, did not believe in good and bad emotions. For him, they were simply transitions, a movement from a state of lesser perfection to a state of greater perfection, or vice versa. Think of it not as a moral judgment, but as a change in your capacity to act, to think, to thrive. Sadness is what we feel when our power of acting is diminished. Joy is what we feel when it is increased. It is that simple and that profound. Your emotions are not abstract spiritual weather. They are a direct physical and mental readout of your state of being. They are the creak of the ship's hull telling you how it's handling the sea. Now, the key, the beautiful, liberating key, is that we are not passive in this. We are not mere buoys tossed by the waves of passion. We have a tool, a sacred instrument that Spinoza placed at the very center of his ethics, the power of understanding. An emotion, he said, ceases to be a passion, a thing we suffer, the moment we form a clear and distinct idea of it, the moment we understand its cause. Let's make this real. Let's give it a taste, a texture. Imagine a deep, aching sadness has settled over you. The old way, the way of seeing it as a monster, is to fight it, to numb it, to scroll through a screen until your eyes ache, to lose yourself in a noise that is only a slightly louder echo of the noise inside. This is like being lost in a dark wood and trying to chop down every tree that surrounds you. It is exhausting, and it only makes you more lost. Now try the Spinozist way. Instead of fighting the sadness, you turn toward it. You do not judge it. You get curious. You sit with it, as you would with a friend who is hurting, and you ask, gently, "What are you? Where did you come from?" You begin the slow, patient work of tracing the threads. This sadness, it feels heavy, like a weight on the chest. It arose after a conversation. A comment was made. A look was exchanged. It triggered a memory, an older story you carry about not being good enough, about being overlooked. You see the connection. The comment was the spark, but the tinder was already there, an old wound never fully examined. In that moment of understanding, something magical happens. The emotion begins to transform. It is no longer a vague, terrifying fog of sadness. It is now a specific, understandable reaction to a specific trigger tied to a specific history. You have formed a clear and distinct idea of it. You have not erased the sadness. You have alchemized it. You have turned the lead of blind suffering into the gold of self-knowledge. The sadness is no longer your master. It has become your map maker. It has shown you the location of an old wound. It has pointed to a story you tell yourself that may not be true. It has given you a task, to tend to that wound, to question that story. The emotion, understood, becomes a catalyst for your own growth, for an increase in your power of acting. It becomes a form of joy, the joy of understanding, of integration, of becoming more whole. This is the true meaning of freedom. It is not the absence of difficult feelings. It is the capacity to meet them, to know them, and in knowing them, to loosen their grip on you. It is the move from being a passive patient to an active agent in your own emotional life. Your inner world stops being a battlefield and starts becoming a workshop, a sanctuary, a library of your own becoming. So tonight, if a feeling arises, a worry, a regret, a quiet pang of loneliness, do not exile it. Invite it in. Ask it its name. Ask it what it needs to show you. You are not your sadness. You are the awareness that can hold it, understand it, and learn from it. You are the alchemist, and your understanding is the fire that transforms everything it touches. Let that fire be gentle. Let it be curious, and let it guide you ever deeper into the mysterious and beautiful map of you. The transition, a soft sigh in the narrative. And from this intimate cartography of the self, this inner world of transformation, we can now lift our gaze, not to a heaven above, but to a perspective so vast, so serene, that the entire map of the self is seen from a great and peaceful height. What would you see if you could see your life not from within it, but from the outside? Not through the narrow lens of time, but through the eyes of forever. Chapter 6. The Unblinking Gaze. What the cosmos sees when it looks back at you. What is the view from the mountaintop? Not the physical mountain of rock and ice, but the metaphysical summit of understanding. We spend our entire lives in the valley of time, watching the procession of our days, one following the other in a line that feels so urgent, so linear, so desperately important. This happened, then that, because of this, leading to that. We are the heroes of our own stories, the center of our own timelines. But what if you could float up gently out of that valley? What if you could rise above the timeline of your life and see it all at once, not as a string of events, but as a single, complete, and perfect shape? What would that shape look like? And who would you be if you were no longer the hero trudging the path, but the silent witness watching from the cliff, seeing the entire path laid out below, from its beginning to its end? Spinoza offered a phrase for this shift in perspective, a phrase that feels like a key to a hidden room. Sub specie eternitatis, under the aspect of eternity. This is not about living forever. It is about seeing as forever sees. It is about perceiving the world not through the frantic, needy lens of duration, of clocks, calendars, and biological decay, but through the calm, infinite lens of necessity and truth. Imagine a great painter standing before a finished canvas. You and I, we might look at the painting and see the narrative. The figure here is sad. The storm clouds are gathering. The light is fading. We experience it moment by moment. But the painter sees the entire work at once. She sees the necessity of the sad figure, how the brushstroke of that sadness balances the joy in another part of the composition. She sees the storm clouds as essential for the drama, the fading light as crucial for the mood. She does not wish to change the sad figure. She understands that the figure's sadness is what makes the painting true, whole, and beautiful. To see your life sub specie eternitatis is to become for a moment both the painting and the painter. It is to understand that every element of your existence, every joy, every heartbreak, every seemingly random encounter, every failure that felt like an ending, is a necessary part of a whole that is, in and of itself, perfect. Not perfect in the sense of being pain-free or easy, but perfect in the sense of being complete, coherent, and true to the unbreakable logic of nature itself. From this vantage point, the anxieties that plague us begin to lose their power. The fear of death, that greatest of human fears, softens. For from the perspective of eternity, your life is not a line that is tragically cut short. It is a definite, beautiful form, like a leaf or a wave or a musical chord. A leaf is not less beautiful because it will eventually fall. A wave is not less magnificent because it will crest and return to the sea. A chord is not less profound because it resolves. Their beauty and their truth are inherent in their finite, necessary form. Your life, seen from this great height, is exactly as long and contains exactly what it must contain to be the unique expression of the universe that it is. So tonight, as you drift between worlds, try on this gaze. Imagine the cosmos looking back at you, not with judgment, not with pity, not with favor, but with the serene, unblinking acceptance of a painter looking at her own work. It sees the child you were, the adult you are, the elder you will become, all at once. It sees the loves and the losses not as isolated tragedies or triumphs, but as contrasting colors that give your portrait its depth. It sees your entire story not as a struggle toward an ending, but as a finished, timeless truth, a truth that is and always was and always will be. You are that truth. Your existence right here, right now, in this quiet room, is a necessary sentence in the great, endless story of substance. You are known. You are understood. You are, from the perspective of the infinite, utterly complete. There is nothing to fear. There is only this beautiful, necessary, and eternal fact of you. Let that be the thought that carries you into dream. The universe is not watching over you. It is looking out from behind your eyes, and in its gaze there is only peace. Chapter 7. The body is a candle flame. Listening to the wisdom of your flesh. What if the very thing you've been taught to ignore, to transcend, to discipline into silence, is the most sacred text you will ever read? Not a scripture written in ink, but one written in nerve and sinew, in breath and heartbeat. We spend our lives trying to rise above our physical selves, as if the body is a clumsy anchor holding the brilliant, airy mind back from its true flight. But what if that is the oldest and most profound of misunderstandings? What if, in the quiet of this night, you could learn to listen to the wisdom of your flesh and hear the universe whispering back? Baruch Spinoza, that quiet rebel of Amsterdam, would ask us to reconsider this ancient divorce. For him, the mind and the body are not two separate things, a ghost helplessly trapped in a machine. No, they are one and the same thing, apprehended under two different attributes. Think of a single candle flame. You can see its light, a warm golden glow that pushes back the darkness, that dances and flickers, and you can feel its heat, a palpable energy that warms the air around it, that you can sense with your skin even if your eyes were closed. The light and the heat are not two different things. They are two different expressions of the one, single, indivisible event of combustion. They are one flame. You are that flame? Your thoughts, your memories, your hopes and fears, that is the light. Your body, with all its sensations, its aches, its pleasures, its tired weight against these sheets, that is the heat. You cannot have the light without the heat. You cannot have the mind without the body. They are one and the same substance, expressing itself in these two parallel, inseparable ways. The thought of a memory is not some free-floating phantom. It is the body remembering. The feeling of cold air on your skin is not just a mechanical signal. It is the mind perceiving. This is not a philosophy that diminishes you. It is one that makes you whole. It ends the civil war within. There is no longer a you and your body. There is only you, a single unified miraculous event. And so the body is not a liar. It is not a temptation to be resisted. It is a messenger. It is the most immediate, most honest conduit we have to the reality of God, or nature, or substance, whatever word feels most true to you in this hushed moment. Every sensation is a word in an endless, unfolding conversation between you and the totality of everything that is. The knot of anxiety in your stomach, that is not a flaw. It is a profound and precise report on your current state, a calculation of your power of acting in that moment. The deep, satisfying fatigue in your muscles after a day of good work. That is not merely exhaustion. It is the feeling of your capacity having been met, of your essence having been expressed fully into the world. The body does not deal in abstractions. It deals in the raw, unvarnished truth of your existence. So tonight, as you lie here in the quiet dark, I invite you to try a different kind of prayer. Not one of words, but one of sensation. Bring your attention, softly without judgment, to the territory of yourself. Feel the weight of your body surrendering to the bed, the gentle pressure where you meet the world. Notice the cool air flowing in, and the warmer air flowing out. That is the world breathing you. Follow the path of a single breath, all the way in, feeling the expansion, the slight pause at the top, and then the release, the letting go, all the way out. There is a universe of wisdom in that single cycle, in and out, striving and surrendering. That faint pulse you might feel at your wrist or in your throat. That is not just a biological mechanism. It is a rhythm, a quiet, persistent drumbeat that has continued since before you were born and will continue until your last moment. It is the rhythm of you. It is the rhythm of life itself. It is a constant, gentle reminder that you are a process, not a static thing. You are a verb, not a noun. You are a flickering, beautiful, temporary flame. And your light and your heat are a perfect, irreplaceable expression of the divine, eternal fire that fuels all of existence. Your body is not a temple to be worshipped from afar. It is the sacred ground itself, and tonight you are finally coming home to it. Let the feeling of the sheets, the sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your heart. Let these be the only thoughts you need. They are not distractions from some higher purpose. They are the purpose. They are the quiet, constant song of your own existence. And it is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything. And from this deep, embodied peace, this feeling of being utterly and completely at home within yourself, a new question begins to form. Not a question of the body, but of the heart. If the body speaks its truth through sensation, what language does the heart speak? What is the shape of its most profound sorrow? And could it be that this sorrow, this feeling we spend our lives running from, is not a mistake to be corrected, but a sacred geometry to be understood? Chapter 8. The Geometry of a Tear. How your deepest sorrow draws a map of the world. Have you ever wondered about the precise architecture of a tear, the specific gravity of its sadness? We treat sorrow as a void, a blankness, a nothingness that swallows light and sound. But what if it is the exact opposite? What if your sadness is not an absence of meaning, but a profound and precise measurement of it? A cartographer of the soul, not with pen and parchment, but with salt water and silence, drawing the exact contours of what truly matters to you, and where you have, for now, lost your way. Spinoza, in his serene and unflinching way, did not see the world in terms of good and evil. Those were human fictions, judgments. He saw the world in terms of adequate and inadequate ideas, in terms of transitions. A move toward greater power, perfection, and freedom was what he called joy. A move toward lesser power, a feeling of being constrained, limited, and passive, was what he called sadness. And this is the most radical of thoughts. Sadness is not a moral failing. It is not a punishment. It is information. It is the mind's and the body's simultaneous unified report that your connection to your own essence, to your conatus, your striving to persist and flourish, has been complicated. Something has occurred that you do not fully understand, and that lack of understanding has lessened you. Think of it like a pain in your side. You would not curse the pain, you would listen to it. It is a signal, a map pointing to a location that needs your attention. Your sadness is the very same. It is a pain of the soul, and it is drawing a map. The sharp, acute grief of a loss, that map is very simple. It has one stark, undeniable landmark, a person, a dream, a future that was, and is no longer. The map says, here you loved, here you are now bereft. The more complex, duller ache of a loneliness you can't quite explain, a dissatisfaction that lingers like a fog, that is a more intricate map. It has many landmarks, blurred together. It speaks of connections not made, of a voice not used, of a life not quite lived on your own terms. It says, here, your power lies dormant. Here, you are a passive recipient of the world, not an active participant in it. This sadness is not your enemy. It is your most honest confidant. It will not lie to you. It tells you exactly where you are in relation to your own freedom. Spinoza's entire philosophy is a journey from passivity to activity, from being affected by external causes to acting from our own innate nature. And sadness is the compass that, by showing us where we are not free, subtly points the way toward where we might be. The tears you cry are not just water, they are the ink of this sacred cartography. Each one traces the border of a wound, yes, but in doing so, it defines the shape of the wholeness you seek. So tonight, if a sadness is with you, as you drift in this space between worlds, do not push it away. Do not treat it as an unwanted guest in the house of your mind. Ask it a question. Ask it gently. What are you showing me? Not, why are you here? But what have you come to map? The answer will not come in words. It will come in a memory, a sensation, an image. It will be the feeling of your father's hand and the longing for its safety. It will be the ghost of a conversation you wish you'd had. It will be the silhouette of a version of yourself you were once brave enough to imagine. Your sadness holds these things tenderly because you asked it to. It is the keeper of all your unfinished loves. And in this act of quiet, non-judgmental attention, something alchemical begins to happen. The sadness does not necessarily vanish, but its nature changes. By understanding it, you move from being passively affected by it to actively engaging with it. You are no longer just feeling sad. You are understanding your sadness. And in that subtle shift, a fragment of your power is returned to you. The map is no longer a sentence. It becomes a guide. The tear is no longer just a measure of loss. It becomes a baptism into a deeper, more complex reality. It is the geometry of your humanity, and it is perfect in its design. And as this weight begins to feel less like a chain and more like a key, your perspective cannot help but shift. The small, noisy drama of the self, with all its passions and pains, begins to recede. It does not become less important. but it is placed inside something vast, something quiet, something eternal. What happens when you stop reading the map of your own soul and instead try to read the universe's? Chapter 9. The Stillness of the Perfect Noun. Why the universe is not a story about you. What if the most liberating thought you could ever think is that you are not the main character? That the universe is not a story, and you are not its hero, its victim, or its prize. We spend our lives at the center of a narrative we are secretly writing every second, a story of hopes and fears, of insults and triumphs, of a world that is either for us or against us. It is exhausting. It is a weight we were never meant to carry. What if you could, just for a moment, lay that burden down? What if you could step out of the whirlwind of your own perspective and rest in the profound, silent, and utterly impartial grammar of reality? This is perhaps Spinoza's most challenging and most beautiful gift, the concept of seeing things under the aspect of eternity, subspecie aeternitatis. To see things not from your limited, time-bound, emotionally fraught point of view, but from the perspective of the whole, from the viewpoint of God or nature. And from there, the grammar of existence changes completely. Our human experience is all verbs. It is all action, passion, striving, becoming, fearing, loving, losing. It is a frantic, beautiful, heartbreaking stream of events. But reality itself, in its ultimate nature, is a noun, a perfect, still, complete noun. It is not becoming. It simply is. Think of a mighty river. From your perspective, standing on the bank, the river is a verb. It is rushing, flowing, churning, moving from here to there. It has a past, a present, and a future. It is a story. But now, imagine the view from high above, from a place where time seems to stand still. From there, the river is a noun. It is a single, beautiful, intricate structure, a silver-blue vein across the green skin of the earth. Every twist, every turn, every ripple and whirlpool is a fixed and necessary part of its eternal design. The water at the beginning is not before the water at the end. The entire river exists completely and perfectly all at once. This is the difference between seeing things from within time and seeing them from the vantage point of eternity. Your life is that river. From inside it, it feels like a relentless flow of happenings. The scraped knee when you were 7, the heartbreak at 20, the professional triumph at 40, the quiet worry you felt today. They all feel separate, strung out on a line of time, each causing the next. But from the perspective of eternity, your life is not a story. It is a single, complete, and perfect fact, a noun. Every element of it, every joy and every sorrow, every so-called success and every so-called failure is a necessary and eternal part of the whole that is you. They are not mistakes to be regretted or trophies to be clutched. They are simply parts of the pattern, notes in a chord, words in a sentence that has already been fully, flawlessly written. This is not a cold or nihilistic thought. It is the ultimate source of peace. It means the pressure is off. The universe is not judging your performance. It is not keeping score. You are not being tested. You are simply being, a momentary, exquisite configuration of the eternal substance. Your entire life is an expression of its necessary and beautiful logic. That thing you regret? It could not have been otherwise, given the infinite chain of causes that led to it. That thing you desperately want? It will be or it will not be according to the same serene, impersonal, and perfect logic. This is not a call to passivity. It is a call to profound acceptance. It is an invitation to trade the exhausting anxiety of the author for the peaceful awe of the reader, marveling at the story that is already and always complete. So tonight, as you feel sleep pulling you into a state where time loses its meaning, practice this. Let go of the narrative. Let go of the story of your day, your week, your life. Imagine your consciousness, your awareness, gently rising up out of the rushing river of yourself. Rising up above the bank, above the trees, until you can see the entire sweep of your existence, not as a frantic sequence, but as a beautiful, still, and complete landscape. Every moment exists there, forever, in its right place. There is nothing to add, nothing to take away. It is perfect. You are perfect. Not in the sense of being flawless, but in the sense of being utterly, completely, and necessarily you. The universe is not a story about you. You are a beautiful word in the universe's perfect, silent, and eternal sentence. And in that thought, there is a stillness, a rest, a peace that passes all understanding. Let it hold you now. Let it carry you into the deepest of sleeps. Chapter 10. The God who feels no need of you. What if the greatest act of love was not to be needed, but simply to be? To exist in your fullness without requirement or expectation from the one you adore. We spend our lives crafting prayers into little ships of request. Keep me safe, make me whole, give me this, spare me that. And we send them out onto a vast, silent ocean, hoping for a returned letter, a sign that we have been heard, that we matter enough to be answered. But what if that ocean is not silent out of indifference? What if its silence is its answer? A deeper, more profound truth that our frantic, fearful hearts have been too busy to hear. What if God feels no need of you? It's a startling thought, isn't it? It can feel like a chill, like a sudden draft from a door left open to a star-filled, impersonal night. We are so accustomed to a God of transaction, a divine figure who requires our praise, our obedience, our love, in exchange for His grace. But Baruch Spinoza, in his quiet attic, polishing lenses that brought the distant heavens into sharp, clear focus, saw something else. He saw a God so supremely, utterly complete that the very idea of needing anything, especially our worship, would be the most profound imperfection. A need implies a lack. A desire implies an incompleteness. And the God Spinoza saw, through his crystal-clear lenses, was the opposite of lacking. It was everything. Deus sive natura, God or nature. Not a ruler in the clouds, but the single, eternal, necessary substance of which all things are merely modes, expressions, fleeting adjectives, in a sentence whose only subject is the cosmos itself. Imagine that for a moment, not as a cold philosophical idea, but as a feeling. Lie there in the quiet and feel the weight of that truth. The pressure of a demanding father vanishes. The anxiety of a jealous king dissolves. The fear of a punitive judge simply evaporates into the air, like mist under a morning sun. What is left in that silence? It is not emptiness. It is a breathtaking, terrifying, and ultimately liberating spaciousness. You are in the presence of a reality so entire, so self-contained, that it asks nothing of you. It requires nothing. It does not need your praise to be glorious. It does not need your obedience to be lawful. It does not need your love to be beautiful. It simply is. And you, in your fragile, temporary, beautiful human form, you are a part of that isness. You are not a servant to it. You are a whisper of it, a momentary bloom on an infinite, eternal tree. This is the God you never learned in temple. This is the divine that does not wait for your call. It is the rain that falls, whether you pray for it or not. It is the law of gravity that holds you to the earth, not out of care, but out of the pure, beautiful, mathematical necessity of its own being. And in this, there is a love far deeper than any conditional affection. It is the love of a parent who does not need their child to become a doctor to be proud, but who marvels simply at the fact that they are. It is the love of the universe for itself, expressed in every leaf, every stone, every beating heart. Your existence is not a test. It is an expression. Your life is not a plea for attention. It is a note in a symphony that has been playing for all eternity. And in the heart of this God who feels no need of you, you find the one thing you are always searching for in all those desperate prayers, the permission to simply be, to be without fear, to be without begging, to be, fully and completely, a finite part of this infinite whole. And in that permission, heard not in a voice but in a silence, you might just find the deepest sense of belonging you have ever known. A belonging not because you are special, but because you are. And if the divine asks nothing of you, then what is the source of that quiet, persistent pull within you? That yearning that shapes your days and colors your dreams? What if your deepest desire is not a flaw to be corrected, but a compass to be understood? What if your longing itself is a law? Chapter 11. The unwritten law of your longing. That ache you feel sometimes, right here in the chest, behind the ribs. A quiet hum of want, a yearning for something, a person, a place, a peace, a purpose, that you can name only in fragments. We are taught to see this longing as a problem, a sign of our incompleteness, a ghost in the machine that needs to be exorcised with achievement, or possession, or spiritual triumph. We see it as a river that must be dammed, a fire that must be banked. But what if we have it all backwards? What if this longing is not an error in your code, but the most fundamental law of your being, the very signature of existence, written in the language of desire? Spinoza, in his geometric precision, did not speak of sin or virtue in the way the priests of his time did. He spoke of conatus, a simple, profound word, striving, the endeavor to persist in one's own being. This is the first and final law of anything, any mode of God, any expression of the universe. A rock strives to be a rock. A flame strives to be a flame. A tulip in a spring garden turns its face to the sun, striving for the light that helps it persist, that helps it bloom. And you strive to be you. Your longing, that deep, often inarticulate pull, is not a distraction from your purpose. It is your purpose. It is the universe in the particular and unique form that is you, striving to persist, to expand, to become more capable, more joyful, more free. Your desire is your divine momentum. Think of the things you have truly deeply wanted in your life, not the superficial wants society hands you, but the ones that rise from a place so deep they feel like memories of a home you've never visited. That desire to create something beautiful, that pull toward a certain kind of landscape, the ocean, the mountains, the desert, that makes your soul feel quiet. The yearning for a conversation that goes on for hours, where you are fully seen and fully seeing. These are not random. They are not accidents. They are clues. They are the unique geometric proof of your own essence. Your conatus is your personal, unwritten law, and your desires are its articles. They are the universe, through you, seeking out the very things that will increase its power to act, its capacity for joy. Your sadness, your anguish, what Spinoza called sadness, is simply the signal that you have encountered something that is not in agreement with your nature, that diminishes your power. Your joy is the signal of an agreement, a meeting that amplifies you. So tonight, as you drift here in the half-light, I invite you to do something radical. Instead of judging your longing or trying to quiet it, just listen to it. Don't ask it for a resume. Don't demand a 5-year plan. Just listen. Feel its shape. Is it a sharp, pointed thing? Or is it a wide open expanse? Is it a quiet thirst or a roaring hunger? This is not a flaw in you. This is the most honest part of you. This is your essence, speaking its law. Your journey is not to eradicate desire, but to understand it, to refine it, to follow its thread back to its source, which is the very impulse of life itself. To learn the difference between the desires that are truly yours, that come from your deepest striving, and the borrowed desires, the noisy echoes of the world, that only lead to confusion. Your authentic longing is a compass needle pointing true north, and true north is always, always toward a greater understanding, a greater connection, a greater joy. It is the universe in you, wanting more of itself. And in that wanting, you are never alone. You are aligned with the fundamental pulse of all that is. The falling leaf strives for the earth, the river strives for the sea, and you strive for the things that make you feel most alive. That is your law. That is your glory. And when you finally understand the law of your own being, what then? What is the world when seen through the eyes of that understanding? What is the final, quiet truth that awaits when all striving finds its rest? Chapter 12. The final agreement between you and reality. There is a moment sometimes in the very early morning or in the deep stillness after a rain when the argument simply stops. The internal negotiation with life, the resistance, the disappointment, the wish that things were otherwise, just falls away. And for a breath or two, there is no separation between you and what is. The sound of the distant car is not an intrusion. It is part of the silence. The weight of the blanket is not just a weight, it is a gentle embrace. In these moments, there are no questions. There is only a deep, resonant yes. This is not a yes of resignation, of giving up. It is a yes of profound understanding, a final agreement. This is what Spinoza called the intellectual love of God, amor Dei intellectualis. It is the highest state we can aspire to, not a euphoric bliss, but a calm, clear, and utterly active acceptance of the necessary order of the universe. It is the soul, having traced the geometric lines of cause and effect, of joy and sorrow, all the way back to their source in God or nature, and having seen their perfect, unbreakable logic, finally coming to rest. It is the end of the war between your will and the world's way. We spend our lives in a low-grade struggle against the nature of things. We want the past to be different. We want other people to be different. We want reality itself to bend to our individual, fleeting will. This struggle is the source of our greatest suffering. It is like a wave raging against the shore, insisting it is not wet. But Spinoza asks us to see the world subspecie aeternitatis, under the aspect of eternity. To see your life, with all its joys and heartbreaks, not as a personal story of luck or misfortune, but as a necessary part of the whole cosmic picture. Every event, from the most glorious to the most tragic, follows from the eternal and infinite nature of God, with the same necessity as the fact that the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. This is not a call to passivity. It is a call to the most profound form of active engagement, understanding. For Spinoza, to understand the cause of our suffering is to cease to suffer from it. It is not that the pain disappears, it is that its sting is drawn. We see it not as a malicious act from a cruel universe, but as a necessary consequence of a vast, interconnected chain of events that we are part of. Imagine that. Imagine seeing the deepest sorrow of your life not as a meaningless tragedy, but as a note that had to be played in the symphony of the whole. This does not dishonor the pain. It dignifies it by placing it within a cosmic context. It makes it part of a vast, beautiful, and intelligible whole. The final agreement is this: to look at reality in all its breathtaking beauty and its terrifying indifference, and to not look away. To understand that you are of it, and it is of you. To love it not because it is good to you personally, but because it is true. This love is intellectual because it is born of understanding, not of mere emotion. It is a love that sees everything, and because it sees everything, it can hold everything. It holds the falling leaf and the dying star with the same quiet reverence. In this agreement, you are free. Not free to change the world to your whim, but free from the tyranny of wishing that you could. Your will is no longer a separate, struggling thing against the current of the universe. It becomes the current itself. You act not from a place of selfish desire, but from a place of aligned understanding. You become a conscious agent of the divine nature, and in that you find a peace that is not dependent on circumstance, a joy that is not the opposite of sorrow, but the deep, abiding background radiation of a universe that is and was and will be exactly as it must be. So let go of the argument tonight. There is no one to argue with. There is only the great, silent, beautiful fact of existence. And you are it. And that is more than enough. It is everything. Chapter 13. The world is God's first language. Listening to the grammar of creation. Have you ever had the feeling that the world is trying to tell you something? Not in words, of course. Not in any language you learned in a book or a classroom, but in the way the rain traces its hesitant patterns on the window pane, in the way a flock of birds turns all at once, as if sharing a single silent thought, in the deep, patient silence of a mountain, or the frantic, joyful rush of a river over stone. What if that feeling isn't just a feeling? What if it is the faintest, most distant echo of a truth so vast, we've forgotten how to hear it? What if the universe is not a dead, silent machine, but a living, breathing language? And what if, by learning just a little of its grammar, you could finally understand the one conversation that has been going on since the very beginning of time, the conversation that is existence itself? Most of us were taught that God is a storyteller, a grand celestial author who wrote a book, a scripture, and that our job is to read it, to decipher its codes, to follow its plots and its commandments. It's a beautiful idea in its way. It gives us a role. It makes us the audience, the readers, the central characters in a divine narrative. But what if that's not quite it? What if God is not an author, but the ACT of speech itself? What if creation is not a story that was written, but a word that is being spoken endlessly in every moment? A word that contains every leaf, every star, every breath you take right now. This was the breathtaking, almost terrifyingly intimate, vision of Baruch Spinoza. He saw the universe not as a thing God made, but as God's very own being expressed. Deus sive natura, God or nature. Not a king on a throne, but the infinite substance of everything, speaking itself into existence. And if that is true, then every single thing we see, everything we are, is a word in that one eternal sentence. Think of the oldest language you can imagine, older than stone, older than the first fire. It is a language without nouns, because nothing is separate. It is a language of verbs, of pure action, of being. The falling of a leaf is a verb. The orbiting of a planet is a verb. The beating of your heart, as you listen to this, is a verb in that ancient perfect tongue. This is the grammar of creation. It has rules, just like any language. The rules of physics, of cause and effect, of geometry. Spinoza called them the fixed and eternal order of nature. They are the syntax of God. They are how the infinite expresses the finite. They are the way the single, unified substance, God, manifests as the incredible, dazzling diversity of the world. A wave is not the ocean, but it is made of nothing but the ocean, and it moves according to the ocean's deep rhythmic laws. In the same way, you are not God, but you are made of nothing but God, and you move according to the laws of nature, which are the laws of God. You are a word being spoken, and so is everyone you have ever loved, and everyone you have ever feared. So how do we listen? How do we learn this first language, when we have been taught for so long to only hear the small human chatter of our own minds? We start by becoming quiet, not just with our voices, but with our thoughts. We start by looking at the world not as a collection of objects to be used, but as a chorus of meanings to be understood. Look at a tree. Don't just see a tree, a noun, a thing. See the verbing. See the reaching for the sun. See the conversation with the soil through a network of roots. See the silent exchange of breath with the air, its out-breath becoming your in-breath. You are in a constant, silent dialogue with it. You are exchanging atoms that were once part of its body. You are speaking to each other in the most fundamental way possible. You are two words, made of the same letters, from the same divine alphabet, finding meaning in your proximity. This changes everything, doesn't it? It makes the world sacred again. Not just the parts we build temples for, but all of it. The crack in the pavement, where a weed stubbornly grows, is a sacred text. The slow, patient erosion of a canyon by a river is a prayer. The complex, beautiful mathematics of a spider's web is a poem. There is no part of this universe that is not brimming with meaning, because it is all part of the one, ongoing utterance. Your loneliness, then, is not a punishment or a mistake. It is a particular word, a specific sound, in the grand speech. Your joy is another. Your sorrow is another. They are all valid. They are all necessary for the sentence to be complete. You are not being told a story. You are being spoken. And in that speaking, you are both the speaker and the spoken, the listener and the listened to. As you drift towards sleep, let your breath become part of that speech. Let the quiet darkness of the room be the pause between two immense, beautiful, and eternal words. And know this, you are one of them. You always have been. Chapter 14. The Prison of Perhaps. On the unshakable necessity of all things. What if I told you that nothing, absolutely nothing, could have been any different than it is? That every moment of your life, from your most searing heartbreak to your most unexpected joy, was as necessary and as fixed as the lines of a geometric proof? That the notion of maybe, the dream of what if, the aching fantasy of a different past, are all just a beautiful, painful prison of our own making? This is perhaps the most difficult and the most liberating of Spinoza's ideas. It feels at first like a cold hand closing around the heart. It feels like the end of hope. But what if it is not the end of hope, but the beginning of a real, unshakable peace? A peace that does not depend on things going your way, but on understanding that they could not have gone any other way. What if the key to your cage has been in your hand all along, and it is simply the courage to look at the lock and say, "I see now, there is no lock." We live our lives in the tense, anxious world of possibility. We are haunted by the ghosts of our other lives, the paths not taken, the words not spoken. We torture ourselves with the idea that with a little more luck, a little more wisdom, a little more time, things could have been better. This is the prison of perhaps. It is a realm of endless, exhausting speculation. It is the source of our regrets and our anxieties. We see the world as a chaotic, random place, a throw of the dice, and we are just hoping for a lucky roll. Spinoza invites us to step out of that casino. He asks us to consider that the universe is not a game of chance, but a chain of necessity, infinite and perfect. Everything that happens because of an infinite chain of causes that stretches back to the very nature of God itself. The leaf does not perhaps fall from the tree. It falls because of the wind, the season, the sap withdrawing, the law of gravity, a perfect, unbreakable sequence of causes. In the same way, your life is not a series of random accidents. It is an intricate, necessary unfolding. You were always going to be here, right now, listening to this. It was written not in the stars, for the stars are fellow characters in this drama, but in the very logic of existence. This is not about fate or predestination in the common sense. It is not that a puppet master God has a script. It is that the universe is a single, interconnected, causal system. To wish that one thing in the past had been different is to wish that the entire history of the universe had been different, right back to its origin. It is to wish yourself out of existence. Your heartbreak was necessary. Your failure was necessary. The loss you still carry was necessary, not because it was meant to be in a sentimental way, but because it was the inevitable result of everything that came before it. This is the great, quiet stone of an idea that Spinoza places in your hand. It is heavy, it feels cold, but hold it, feel its weight, because this stone is the key. When you stop fighting against what is, when you stop arguing with reality, a profound energy is released. The energy you once spent on regret, on anxiety about the future, on resentment. That energy is now free. This is what Spinoza called the intellectual love of God, amor Dei intellectualis. It is not an emotional love. It is an understanding. It is the profound peace that comes from seeing the necessity of all things. It is the realization that the universe is not against you. It is not for you either. It simply is. And you are a part of its isness. To rage against an event in your life is like a wave raging against the ocean for making it crash upon the shore. The wave is the ocean. Its crashing is the ocean expressing its own nature. In the same way, your life is the universe expressing its nature. To accept this is not to become passive. It is to become aligned. It is to stop swimming against the current and to finally understand the current is you. So tonight, as you lie here, think of one thing you have never been able to make peace with. And instead of asking, why did this happen? Try asking, how was this necessary? Don't search for a moral reason. Search for a causal one. See it as a stone, in an endless, beautiful mosaic. It may not look right on its own, but it is essential to the whole picture. Let the need for it to have been different just dissolve. And in that dissolution, feel the walls of the prison of perhaps begin to fade. There is only what is, and what is necessary, and therefore, it is perfect. You can rest now. Chapter 15. You are a mood of the atmosphere, on being a temporary arrangement of the eternal. What are you really? If you try to pinpoint the thing that is you, where do you find it? Is it in your thoughts? But they change like the weather. Is it in your body? But its cells replace themselves entirely every 7 years. Is it in your memories? But they are fragile, shifting things. You feel so solid, so permanent, so central. But what if that is the most beautiful and gentle illusion of all? What if you are not a permanent statue, but a temporary breeze, not a noun, but a verb, not an enduring thing, but a fleeting, beautiful pattern, a mood that the eternal atmosphere of the universe has decided to wear, just for a little while? And what if realizing this is not a loss of self, but the discovery of your true, vast, and undying identity? We clutch at our individuality like a life raft in a vast ocean. We build fortresses of me and mine, my career, my personality, my achievements, my pain. We see this collection of attributes as our self, and we fear its dissolution more than anything. We fear death as the end of this unique and precious constellation. Spinoza offers us a different way to see. He asks us to consider that we are not static things, but dynamic modifications. We are modes of the one infinite substance. Think of the ocean again. A whirlpool is not a thing separate from the ocean. It is a temporary arrangement of the ocean's water, shaped by currents and tides. It has a form, an identity, a power for a time. But eventually, the currents change and the whirlpool dissolves back into the ocean from which it never was truly separate. You are that whirlpool. The ocean is God, is nature, is the eternal substance. Your body, your mind, your consciousness, these are the currents, the temporary pattern. You are a mood that the universe is in. This is the most radical democracy imaginable. You are of the exact same substance as the giraffe, the glacier, the galaxy spinning in the void. You are all just different melodies being played on the same instrument. The instrument is eternal. The melodies come and go. This does not make your melody less beautiful. In fact, it makes it more so. Its temporary nature is what gives it its exquisite poignancy. You are not being erased at death. The pattern that was you simply changes. The energy, the matter, the substance that arranged itself into your thoughts and feelings will rearrange itself into new patterns, new melodies. The you that was a conscious, thinking whirlpool will end, yes. The fear of that ending is real. But the water that you are made of does not end. It simply returns to the ocean, to later be part of a cloud, a drop of rain, a new wave, a new whirlpool in some other part of the sea. You don't cease to be. You cease to be separate. So what does this mean for you, tonight, in this quiet room? It means you can relax the grip on your story. You can let go of the exhausting work of maintaining the statue of yourself. You are not a statue. You are a dance. You are not a portrait, but a brushstroke. And the hand that holds the brush is the same force that spins the planets and grows the moss on the north side of the trees. Your anxiety, your pride, your worries about your legacy, they are all part of the dance too, but they are not the dancer. The dancer is the eternal. and you are its movement. So as you fall asleep, feel yourself becoming less solid. Feel the edges of your body blur into the darkness of the room. Your breath is the atmosphere entering and leaving the atmosphere. The warmth under your blanket is a tiny echo of the sun's immense fire. The quiet hum of your mind is a thought being thought by the universe itself. You are not a guest in this world. You are the world, briefly knowing itself. You are a mood, a beautiful passing mood, and it is enough. It is more than enough. It is everything. Chapter 16. The Stone that thinks it's falling on the gentle illusion of your free will. Come closer to the quiet. Let the day's stubborn grip finally loosen from your wrists. There is a thought I want to lay beside you on the pillow. A thought so humbling, so strangely calming, that it can only be offered in a whisper, in the dark, where our pride has already gone to sleep. What if every choice you believe you have made, from what you loved to who you hurt, was not a choice at all? What if your will is not a captain steering a ship, but a passenger, convinced they are drawing the maps, all the while being carried by a current so vast, so ancient, it has no name you could speak? Tonight we listen to the whisper of Baruch Spinoza, who asks us to consider the most beautiful, liberating lie we have ever told ourselves, the story of our own freedom. Imagine a single stone tumbling through the crisp air of a deep canyon. As it falls, tumbling end over end, if that stone could think, what would it think? It would feel the wind rush against its surface. It would be aware of its own tumble, its own spin. And in that awareness it would surely believe, with every fiber of its mineral being, that it had chosen this, that it had, in a magnificent act of free will, decided to leap from the cliff face and to fly. It would feel the thrill of its own agency, the audacity of its descent. We are that stone. We are tumbling through the moments of our lives, feeling the rush of decisions, the spin of our desires, and we are utterly convinced that we are the authors of this fall. We point to our loves, our hatreds, our preferences for this food over that, this person over another, and we say, "See, this is me, this is my will, this is my free choice." But Spinoza, in his quiet Amsterdam room, asks us to look not at the stone, but at the canyon, not at the fall, but at the gravity. He asks us to see the infinite chain of causes that had to align perfectly for that stone to be in that exact place, at that exact time, with that exact composition, to be loosened by that exact gust of wind. The geology that formed the cliff, the rain that eroded its edge, the cosmic history that dictated the law of gravity itself. The stone's decision to fall is simply the final, inevitable link in a chain that stretches back to the very beginning of everything. Your mind, your beautiful, intricate mind, is not a ghost in the machine, separate from the laws of the universe. It is the machine, thinking. It is a part of nature, thinking. And every thought you have, every so-called decision you make, is the necessary and inevitable result of everything that came before. A prior thought, a memory imprinted by a forgotten afternoon, a chemical state in your body, a genetic predisposition, a conversation you overheard as a child, the weather outside your window today, subtly altering your mood. All of these causes, an infinite and interwoven web of them, flow into this single moment and produce this single thought. You do not choose your next thought any more than a flower chooses to turn toward the sun. It is simply what it must do, given the cause of the light. This is what Spinoza called conatus, the striving to persist in your own being. Your will is not freedom. It is simply your conatus becoming conscious of itself. It is the stone's thrilling, mistaken sensation of its own flight. And here, in the dark, you might feel a chill, a resistance. Is this not a prison? To think that I am not free, that my life is but a playing out of a melody written on a scroll I cannot see? But I ask you, does the river feel imprisoned by its bed? Does the star feel trapped by its orbit? Or are they simply being fully, completely, exactly what they are? This is the profound liberation Spinoza offers. The freedom you cling to, the freedom to have chosen differently, is a freedom born of ignorance. It is the freedom of not knowing why you did what you did. True freedom, for Spinoza, is not the freedom to choose your path. It is the freedom to understand it. It is the moment the stone, in its falling, suddenly comprehends gravity. It doesn't stop falling, but the panic of the unknown fall vanishes. The fall becomes natural, it becomes accepted, it becomes, in a word, peaceful. When you understand that your anger was not a sudden evil choice, but the necessary outcome of a tired body, a wounded pride, a genetic temper, 1,000 causes converging, the anger does not necessarily vanish, but the self-condemnation for having it can. You can begin to trace the threads backwards. You can see the causes, and in seeing them, you are no longer their blind puppet. You become their witness. And in that witnessing, there is a profound and quiet power. You are not fighting the current anymore. You are learning its flow. You are learning the music to which you have always been dancing. And in that knowing, you can finally, gracefully surrender to the dance. So let go of the burden of having chosen everything. You didn't. You are simply living out the magnificent, intricate, and utterly necessary story of you. And that is enough. That is more than enough. It is everything. And as you feel the weight of that responsibility, the weight of having to be the sole author of your life, drift away from your chest like a mist, you can just be a necessary part of the whole, tumbling perfectly, exactly as you should be. And from the understanding of our beautiful, necessary lack of freedom, a question begins to form in the stillness. If we are not the authors, but the readers of our story, then who or what wrote the language it is written in? What if there is a way of reading that goes beyond the words on the page? A way of knowing that feels less like reading and more like remembering. Chapter 17. The third kind of knowledge, the forgotten language of the cosmos. There is a knowing that lives deeper than facts, deeper than the stories we tell ourselves. It is a knowing that does not come from a book or a teacher, but rises up from the very core of things, like a forgotten song the blood remembers. It is the feeling you get when you look into the night sky and don't just see points of light, but feel the immense, silent distance between them, and feel a part of that distance within yourself. It is the understanding that floods you not when you learn about a tree, but when you truly see it. Its patient struggle for light, its quiet communication through roots, its slow, graceful surrender to the wind. And in that seeing, you see a part of yourself reflected back. Spinoza called this scientia intuitiva. The third kind of knowledge. It is the cosmos's mother tongue, a language without words, and tonight we remember how to listen. We spend most of our lives in the first kind of knowledge, the knowledge of rumor, of hearsay, of messy experience. It's how we know that fire is hot, because we were once burned. It's how we know the sky is blue, because we were told it is so. It's a practical, often confused knowledge, a collection of clues we've gathered from the world. It's the knowledge of the bumbling detective, piecing together a crime from scattered, unreliable witnesses. Then there is the second kind, the knowledge of reason, of science, of mathematics. This is the knowledge of the detective who has learned the rules of logic, who can deduce that if A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C. This is powerful knowledge. It gives us medicine and bridges and physics. It is the map we have drawn of the territory. But Spinoza, the quietest and most profound of detectives, points to a third way. What if you could stop looking at the clues? What if you could stop studying the map? What if you could, for a single breathtaking moment, become the territory? What if you could know the crime not by deduction, but by being the murderer, the victim, the weapon, and the motive, all at once? This is intuitive knowledge. It is not a gathering of facts, nor a chain of reasoning. It is a sudden, immediate, and total comprehension of the essence of a thing and its perfect, necessary place in the network of God or nature. It is an act of seeing from the perspective of eternity. It is the difference between knowing that 2 + 2 = 4 and understanding the eternal, necessary, beautiful truth of why it must be so. It is the difference between knowing a friend's face and suddenly comprehending the entire history of joy and sorrow that has shaped the lines around their eyes, and feeling that history as if it were your own. This knowledge does not come from effort. It comes from a kind of surrender. It is what happens when the busy, chattering mind, the mind that is always labeling, judging, comparing, grows still. And in that stillness, a deeper intelligence is able to surface, the intelligence of the body, the intelligence of the heart, the intelligence of the universe itself thinking through you. Spinoza says this knowledge is the highest form of knowing because it is the only knowledge that brings with it absolute peace. Reason can be anxious. It can doubt its own premises. It can be overthrown by a better argument. But intuitive knowledge is its own proof. You do not believe it. You feel it, in the same way you feel the truth of a sunrise. It is a knowledge that carries the seal of reality upon it. It is the universe recognizing itself in one of its own parts. And how do we cultivate this? We cannot force it. We can only make ourselves available to it. We create the conditions for this grace. We seek to understand the causes of our emotions, tracing our sadness and our joy back to their roots, not to judge them, but to see their necessity. This clears the fog of confused experience. We study the world with reason and joy, learning the logic of the stars and the poetry of physics. This gives us a clearer map, and then we let the map fall from our hands. We walk into the forest of the world not as conquerors, but as guests. We look at a falling leaf and do not just see a biological process. We see the tree letting go. We see the wind carrying. We see the earth receiving. And in that seeing, we understand something about loss, about support, about cycles, about the endless, generous exchange that is the very heart of existence. We feel our place in that exchange, and in that feeling, for a moment, the boundary between the seer and the seen dissolves. You are the leaf. You are the wind. You are the tree. This is the third knowledge. It is the soul's homecoming. It is the quietest, most profound conversation you will ever have, a conversation where you are both the speaker and the listener, and the silence between the words. So tonight, as you drift, don't try to know anything. Simply let yourself be a part of it all. And in that being, you will know everything you need to know. And from that moment of unity, of becoming the territory, a final gentle truth emerges. If we can truly see from the perspective of the whole, then what becomes of the I? The separate, solitary self that feels so solid, so permanent? What if the greatest peace lies not in its defense, but in its graceful, grateful surrender?